In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, the people wandered in the wilderness, murmuring against their leaders. Among them was Korah, a Levite of the clan of Kohath, no stranger to the stirring tension that brewed beneath the seeming calm. Korah stood with his heart far from the promised hope, entangled in unholy ambition, as whispers of rebellion spread like wildfire through the camp of the Israelites. 2 years had passed since their miraculous exodus from Egypt, a time carved by the hand of Yahweh through Moses and Aaron, who had led them through trials toward the promised land. Yet, here, the vast arid expanse bore witness to discontent. Korah, sensing the restless hearts of many, raised his voice against the appointed leaders, declaring, "You have gone too far, for all in the congregation are holy, every one of them. Why then do you exalt yourselves above the assembly of the Lord?" The very air trembled at his words, igniting a spark among those who yearned for authority and recognition. Little did Korah know the peril he courted by questioning the divine order established through God's chosen. As murmurs swelled into a chorus of defiance, Moses heard the echoing sorrow in Korah's challenge. Overcome with grief, he fell face down before the Lord, beseeching Korah to abandon his foolishness. "In the morning," Moses urged, his voice quaking, "the Lord will show who is his and who is holy, and will cause him to come near to him." But Korah, resolute in his ambitions, gathered his allies, Dathan, Abiram, and On, weaving visions of equality and shared leadership into their hearts, calling for unity against the divine appointment. As night fell, the stars blinked in anticipation. In the solitude of prayer, God instructed Moses to gather Korah and his followers for a decisive encounter. "Let each take their censer," he commanded, "and we shall see whom I choose." This divine instruction cast a heavy mantle upon Moses as he prepared the assembly for an event that would challenge the very foundations of their faith. The dawn broke with a golden light as tension cloaked the assembled crowd. Each rebellious leader stood clutching a censer filled with live coals, the air thick with trepidation and excitement. Would these men earn their place alongside the anointed leaders, or would they come face to face with God's justice? The people watched, their faith hanging in delicate balance. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey. I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now, let's continue with what the Lord did next. As Korah and the insurgent faced Moses, the moment swelled with divine gravity. Unbeknownst to them, their choices already wove the fabric of history, for the ground beneath them seemed to hold its breath, ready to mark the outcome of rebellion. The sun paused on the horizon, and the air thickened, palpable with the impending revelation of God's will. What fate would befall those who dared to defy the Lord? The showdown loomed. The choice to honor God's order or face the weight of divine judgment lingered, intensifying the sanctity of the moment and inviting all who bore witness to reflect on their allegiance to Yahweh. And it came to pass that as the sun cast its golden rays upon the congregation, Moses turned to Korah, filled with a sorrowful heart yet resolute in his purpose. "In the name of the Lord," he proclaimed, "we shall come before him with our censers. He alone knows the hearts of men and will reveal his chosen." Korah, emboldened by his conspirators, raised his censer and shouted, "We do not require your leadership, Moses. You have brought us to this wilderness to perish, to die far from the land flowing with milk and honey." His anger reverberated against the rocks, stirring the crowd. The very fabric of their unity frayed, and deeper murmurings spread among the Israelites, threatening to erupt into chaos. Moses fell again to his knees, crying out to the Lord, "They are blind to your greatness, O God. Open their eyes and let them see the truth." Then the Lord spoke to Moses, commanding him to separate the people from Korah and his companions. Tell the congregation, get away from the tents of these wicked men, and do not touch anything that belongs to them, lest you be consumed in all their sins. Thus Moses arose and turned to the assembly. Turn away from the tents of these men. They have chosen rebellion against the Lord. Stand firm and see the salvation of the Lord, for he shall make a distinction today. As the people stepped back, fear fell upon their hearts, mingled with the uncertainty of what was to come. Korah, sensing the desperation around him, clung fiercely to his cause. "Shall we be afraid of the Lord's wrath?" he mocked. Yet in the depths of their souls, doubt gnawed at the reins of his following, pulling them away from his seductive words. Moses raised his voice in defiance. "Hear, O people of Israel, if these men die a natural death or suffer the fate of all mankind, then the Lord has not sent me. But if the Lord performs a new thing, and the ground opens its mouth to swallow them up, you shall know that these men have despised the Lord." And the moment hung heavy in the air as he spoke, a heartbeat of eternity poised on the brink of revelation. The earth trembled beneath their feet, a sign of the divine tension woven through the gathering. Korah and his companions, still standing defiantly, began to feel the ground shift ominously at their feet. With a great roar, the earth opened wide, swallowing them, their tents, and all that belonged to them. A great cry arose from the multitude witnessing the unfolding of God's judgment. They fled in terror, for they perceived the Lord's hand was indeed upon them, and his justice was swift. The fire from the censers of Korah and his followers ignited in a glorious blaze, consuming the rebellion, while a holy stillness filled the air, reverberating with the cries of astonished witnesses. Israel stood in hushed awe at the mighty act of the Lord, trembling before his greatness. In that moment, the people understood the immutable authority of God's chosen leaders and his ability to execute justice. The Lord instructed Moses to gather the censers from the fire and hammer them into a covering for the altar as a sign to future generations that they should not rebel against the Lord. But the question lingered in their hearts. How long would they test the Lord, and where would their faith lead them next? For Yahweh remained steadfast, guiding an ungrateful people toward his sovereign plan that loomed larger than their fleeting scorn. And thus the story unfolded, revealing not only God's justice, but also the unwavering call for faith and obedience among his chosen. What new challenges awaited them in the wilderness, and how would the Lord manifest his power over their continued failures? The answer would mark the path ahead, leading to deeper revelations of his divine purpose and grace. And it came to pass that the people of Israel were left in a state of dread, for the ground had swallowed their leaders in defiance of the Lord, and the silence of fear enveloped the multitude. They looked upon the barren earth where once stood Korah and his followers, now a testament to the Almighty's judgment. In the days that followed, the congregation murmured whispers, their hearts gripped by the weight of grief and uncertainty. "Will the Lord continue to show his anger?" they asked one another. "Will he abandon us to our wandering, never to behold the promised land?" Then the Lord spoke again to Moses from the tent of meeting, saying, "Gather unto me the whole congregation of the children of Israel, that I may show them a sign." Moses' heart raced as he prepared to do as the Lord commanded, calling upon the elders and all the people to draw near. As they stood in anxious anticipation, the Lord commanded Moses to take a rod from each tribe, the leader of each tribe contributing one rod. "Write each name upon his rod, and bring them before me," he directed. Moses did as the Lord commanded, gathering the 12 rods and presenting them before the Lord, placing them in the tent of meeting. "And the rod of the man whom I choose shall blossom," the Lord assured Moses. "Thus I will rid myself of the murmurings of the children of Israel, which they murmur against you." The next day Moses entered the tent of meeting, and indeed the rod of Aaron the priest had blossomed, its buds filled with flowers and even ripe almonds hanging heavy upon it. This miraculous sign reverberated through the camp, causing a great stir among the Israelites. "Behold, the Lord has confirmed Aaron as his high priest," some cried out, while others fell to their faces in awe and disbelief. They recognized that Yahweh had indeed chosen, setting apart his faithful servant to lead them in holiness before him. Yet among the congregation a defiant spirit lingered, and the hearts of some remained hardened, for they did not grasp the gravity of their rebellion against the Lord. "What does this prove?" they questioned amongst themselves. "Is it not favoritism that he showed?" Moses, perceiving their obstinacy, fell upon his face before the Lord, pleading for understanding. "O Lord, what will become of this people? They are so quick to forget your wonders and your grace extended through their leaders." The Lord said to Moses, "I would not have you despair, for my plan remains steadfast. I shall bring them into the land promised to their forefathers, but great trials await this generation. They must learn that rebellion leads only to ruin, and trust must be placed wholly in me." And so it was that the election of Aaron stood as a mighty testament to God's divine selection. The buds and blossoms upon the rod echoed the promise of life and restoration, for out of death springs new life, a theme woven through the tapestry of his people. Yet as Israel continued their journey through the wilderness, they would face many tests. Would they heed the signs of God's choosing? Would they remember his providence amidst their strife? The path before them remained obscured, shrouded in the unknown, but one truth stood firm: the Lord was with them. As their hearts wrestled with doubt, the shadow of the coming judgment loomed, and the future bore a staggering weight. For the journey yet to unfold would reveal not just a people wandering through a barren land, but a God willing to bear their burdens and lead them into the glorious promise, if only they would trust. Thus the seeds of doubt were sown amid the blossoms of faith, awaiting the day when their true allegiance would be tested once more. What lessons would the wilderness teach, and how would the Lord weave his redemptive thread through the hearts of the people? For in this mystery lay the echo of his sovereign plan, unfolding with each step toward their destined land of promise. And it came to pass that after the miraculous sign of Aaron's rod blossoming, the people of Israel remained divided in their hearts. For while many praised the Lord and recognized his chosen servant, others still clung to their rebellion, casting doubt upon the divine judgment that had been manifested before their eyes. Moses, burdened by the weight of their discontent, gathered the leaders of the tribes and recounted the wonders the Lord had performed. "Surely our God is among us," he declared. "He has shown us his might and appointed Aaron as our high priest. Let us not tempt the Lord with our unbelief." Yet the murmurers persisted, emboldened by their obstinate hearts. Among them arose Dathan and Abiram, who took a stand against the leadership of Moses and Aaron, saying, "Why have you led us out of Egypt only to die in this wasteland? It is better for us to return to bondage than to remain under your rule." Their words ignited anger and despair among those who listened, sowing further seeds of contention within the camp. Upon hearing their words, the Lord spoke once more to Moses, saying, "Tomorrow I will make a distinction among the people. Compel them to gather before the entrance of the tent of meeting, and I will show them the error of their ways and the consequence of their rebellion." So Moses rose early in the morning and obeyed the word of the Lord. He summoned the congregation, and they assembled, trembling with unease. The atmosphere thickened with an electric anticipation as the people strained to hear what the Lord would declare. And the glory of the Lord descended as a cloud, enveloping the tent of meeting. Then, from the midst of the cloud, the voice of the Almighty reverberated like thunder, commanding all to listen. "I am the Lord who brought you out of Egypt, who has sustained you in the wilderness. You have tested me and sought to undermine the authority I have established among you. In this day I shall make an end to your rebellion." The ground beneath the feet of Dathan and Abiram began to tremble. Fear gripped the hearts of the firstborn of Israel as they witnessed the earth split open, revealing a chasm that swallowed these men and their households, sealing their fate as a grave reminder of God's judgment. Flames shot forth, a consuming fire that demonstrated the earnestness of the Lord's resolve. With fearful reverence, the congregation beheld the sight, and a great cry rose among them. "The Lord is indeed a consuming fire," they said, falling to their knees in humble acknowledgment of his sovereignty. A holy fear surrounded them, for they understood that the path of defiance against God was fraught with peril. Then Moses turned to Aaron and said, "Take the censer and fill it with the fire from the altar, and offer incense for the people, that they may be spared from this wrath." Aaron obeyed, and as he made atonement for the people, the plague that had begun among the congregation was halted. He stood between the living and the dead, and the mercy of the Lord overshadowed the people. Thus, through the dramatic unfolding of events, the allegiance of the Israelites was tested once more. The Lord's actions reaffirmed his covenant, revealing that his purpose would prevail despite the stubbornness of men. As the tent fabric billowed in the divine wind, a solemn reminder hovered in the air, whispering to their hearts, "There exists a fine line between grace and judgment." For the days ahead would bring further trials, and the faith of the people would increasingly be put to the test. What revelation awaited them, hidden within the folds of their journey? Though the path ahead seemed shrouded, God was not done unfolding his marvelous plan. Thus, a question lingered in the hearts of the Israelites. What further signs and wonders might the Lord yet bring to lead them home? And it came to pass that when the people of Israel witnessed the fate of Dathan and Abiram, a shudder of fear swept through the camp. Yet still did Korah, a man of prominence among the Levites, rise up in rebellion. He gathered together 250 leaders of the congregation, men renowned among the people, and confronted Moses and Aaron. "You take too much upon yourselves," he said, "for all the congregation is holy, every one of them, and the Lord is among them. Why then do you exalt yourselves above the assembly of the Lord?" Moses, hearing these words, fell on his face, for he understood the gravity of their rebellion. He turned to Korah and his company and said, "In the morning the Lord will show who is his and who is holy, and will cause him to come near to him. The one whom he chooses he will cause to come near to him." He then instructed Korah, saying, "Take censers, you and your followers, and put fire in them. The Lord will reveal his will, and he will separate the holy from the profane." Thus the chorus of dissenting voices filled the air, contending against the divine order established among them. The next day all the congregation came together against Moses and Aaron at the entrance of the tent of meeting. The glorious cloud of the Lord appeared, and the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, "Separate yourselves from among this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment." But Moses and Aaron fell on their faces again, pleading, "O God, the God of the spirits of all flesh, shall one man sin, and you be angry with all the congregation?" Their intercession stirred the heart of the Lord, who granted them reprieve, yet still proclaimed judgment upon Korah and his companions. "Tell the congregation to get away from the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram," the Lord commanded. And as the people moved away, Moses declared, "By this you shall know that the Lord has sent me to do all these works, for I have not done them of my own will. If these men die naturally like all men, then the Lord has not sent me. But if the Lord creates a new thing, and the earth opens her mouth and swallows them up with all that belongs to them, then you will understand that these men have rejected the Lord." Hardly had Moses finished speaking when the ground beneath their feet trembled violently. The earth opened its mouth and swallowed Korah, Dathan, Abiram, and all their households along with their possessions. A great awe fell upon the congregation as they witnessed the unfolding of divine wrath, which signified the sovereign judgment of the Lord upon rebellion. Then the fire came forth from the Lord and consumed the 250 men who had offered incense. A great stillness settled over the camp, and the people trembled at the display of God's holiness and justice. As the smoke of their rebellion dissipated, their hearts were awakened to the dire consequence of opposing God's appointed leaders. After these events, the Lord commanded Moses to collect the censers from the burnt remains and to hammer them into plates to overlay the altar. "Let them be a sign to the children of Israel," the Lord decreed, "so that no outsider who is not of the descendants of Aaron should come near to offer incense before the Lord, lest he become like Korah and his company." Thus the signs were established among the people, and they learned to tremble at the holiness of God. The heart of the congregation was drawn towards reverence for the authority of those God had chosen, mindful of the lessons learned in the midst of their trials. Yet a solemn whisper echoed through the camp, hinting at deeper purposes yet to be revealed. For though judgment had come, God's plan was still unfolding, and beneath every command lay the traces of divine mercy. What greater truths awaited them in the wilderness? What further revelations would God impart as they journeyed towards the land promised to their forefathers? The longing for understanding stirred among them, an urgent quest to discern the mysteries of the Lord's sovereign will. And it came to pass that the people of Israel, still trembling in the aftermath of the Lord's fierce judgment, turned their hearts toward Moses and Aaron with mixed emotions of reverence and fear. They murmured among themselves, saying, "We are undone. The Lord's wrath has been kindled against us. Who among us can stand in his presence?" And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, "Get up from among this congregation, for they are corrupt and have continued in rebellion against me. Call forth the leaders of each tribe, that I may give you a sign to root out the murmuring among the people." Moses gathered together the leaders of the tribes of Israel, and each leader brought forth a rod inscribed with his name, the rod of Aaron among them, for he was appointed as the priest of the Lord. "Place these rods in the tent of meeting before the ark of the covenant," Moses commanded, "and the Lord will show forth a sign to demonstrate whom he has chosen from among you." The next day Moses entered the tent of meeting, and behold, the rod of Aaron had budded and blossomed, producing almonds. The miraculous sign shone forth as evidence of God's chosen authority. The people beheld this wonder, and great fear fell upon them, for they understood that Aaron was established as the high priest forever, a mediator between God and man. Then the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, "Tell the people that they shall not approach the altar to offer sacrifices, except through those whom I have appointed. For I am the Lord your God, holy and just, and my judgment shall prevail." And Moses, seeing the hearts of the people, fortified their spirits with the command of the Lord. "Do not fear, O sons of Israel, for the Lord knows your hearts, and he has not chosen to consume you, but to teach you his ways. Learn to trust in his appointed leaders, for they bear the weight of divine authority." Yet, as the days continued, the hearts of some grew hardened once more. They cried out, "What shall we do if our leaders turn aside from the commandments of the Lord? How will we know whom the Lord has truly sent among us?" Moses and Aaron, sensing their unrest, brought their concerns before the Lord. And the Lord replied, "Instill among them the statutes that shall govern them in their journeys. These laws shall bind them, and they shall guide every step they take towards the promised land." Thus Moses began recounting to the people the laws and commandments that the Lord had given him, delivering them with solemnness and urgency. The people listened, their ears eager to hear, and their hearts yearning for peace and direction. Yet, even as he spoke, a hesitation lingered in their spirits. A question held unspoken in the depths. What further mysteries of the Lord awaited them in this desolate land, where trials and tribulations seemed as constant companions? The journey ahead loomed heavy with uncertainty, yet therein lay the seeds of promise and divine revelation. For among them was a hidden destiny, a plan woven into the very fabric of their existence. And though they trembled at the majesty of the Lord's sovereignty, they did not know the depth of his love working through their trials, a love that would ultimately lead them to a kingdom yet unseen. What faith would be required to embrace the fullness of his promise? How would their hearts be transformed to live in light of his glorious covenant? And it came to pass, after many days, that Korah, the son of Izhar, the son of Kohath, the son of Levi, rose up against Moses, and with him 250 leaders of the congregation, renowned men who were well known among the people. They gathered together against Moses and Aaron and said to them, You take too much upon yourselves, for all the congregation is holy, every one of them, and the Lord is among them. Why then do you exalt yourselves above the assembly of the Lord?" When Moses heard this, he fell on his face before the Lord. He spoke to Korah and all his company, saying, "Tomorrow morning the Lord will show who is his and who is holy, and will cause him to come near to him. That one whom he chooses, he will cause to come near to him. Take censers, Korah and all your company. Put fire in them and put incense in them before the Lord tomorrow. And it shall be that the man whom the Lord chooses is the Holy One." And as the dawn broke the next day, the censers were prepared, and Korah gathered all the men against Moses and Aaron. They stood at the door of the tent of meeting with their incense. The glory of the Lord appeared to all the congregation, and the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, "Separate yourselves from among this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment." But Moses and Aaron prayed, saying, "O God, the God of the spirits of all flesh, shall one man sin, and you be angry with all the congregation?" And the Lord instructed Moses to tell the congregation to get away from the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. And Moses rose and went to Dathan and Abiram, and the elders of Israel followed him. He spoke to the people, saying, "Depart now from the tents of these wicked men. Touch nothing of theirs, lest you be consumed in all their sins." So they got away from around the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. As Moses declared, "By this you shall know that the Lord has sent me to do all these works, for I have not done them of my own will. If these men die naturally like all men, or if they are visited by the common fate of all men, then the Lord has not sent me. But if the Lord creates a new thing, and the earth opens its mouth and swallows them up with all that belongs to them, and they go down alive into the pit, then you will understand that these men have rejected the Lord." Now it came to pass, just as he finished speaking all these words, that the ground split apart under them. The earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up, along with their households and all the men with Korah and all their goods. So they and all those who were with them went down alive into the pit, and the earth closed over them, and they perished from among the assembly. Then all Israel who were around them fled at their cry, for they said, "Lest the earth swallow us up also." And a fire came out from the Lord and consumed the 250 men who were offering incense, and they became a sign of warning to all the people. The Lord then spoke to Moses, saying, "Tell Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, to pick up the censers from the burning and scatter the fire some distance away, for they are holy. The censers of these men who sinned against their own souls shall be made into hammered plates as a covering for the altar. For they offered them before the Lord, and they are holy, and they shall be a sign to the children of Israel." But the children of Israel continued to murmur against Moses and Aaron the next day, saying, "You have killed the people of the Lord." And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Get away from this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment." As the cloud of judgment began to arise once again, Moses said to Aaron, "Take your censer and put fire in it from the altar. Bring it quickly to the congregation and make atonement for them. For wrath has gone out from the Lord, the plague has begun." As Aaron ran, he interceded for the people, and the plague was halted. Yet the deaths were numerous, and the people fell into reverent silence, for they witnessed the mighty hand of the Lord both to save and to judge. And so the people understood anew the weight of their covenant relationship with God, grasping the critical importance of holiness and obedience to His commands. Yet amidst the chaos, the Lord's plan was woven into the very fabric of their trials, a sovereign reminder that His justice is tempered by mercy, a truth that would echo through generations. What profound workings of God awaited them as they continued on their journey! And it came to pass, in the aftermath of this great calamity, that the people of Israel began to gather in disarray, their hearts heavy with fear and confusion. Murmurs filled the air, and the spirit of unrest swept through the camp. They feared the Lord's judgment and questioned His servant Moses, asking, "How shall we know the will of the Lord? Have we not seen enough of his power? The Lord, in his mercy, spoke to Moses once more, saying, Gather the rods of the leaders of the 12 tribes of Israel, and you shall write each man's name on his rod. Place them before the tent of meeting, and the man whom I choose, his rod shall bud. Thus I will put an end to the complaints of the children of Israel, which they make against you. So Moses obeyed the command of the Lord and gathered the rods, each inscribed with the names of the tribal leaders. The rod of Aaron for the tribe of Levi, alongside the rods of the other tribes' leaders. These he placed in the tent of meeting before the Lord, where the divine presence dwelled. On the following day Moses entered the tent of meeting, and behold, the rod of Aaron for the house of Levi had sprouted. Why then do you exalt yourselves above the assembly of the Lord? When Moses heard this, he fell on his face, a sign of humility and great distress. And he spoke to Korah and all his company, saying, Tomorrow the Lord will show who is his and who is holy, and will cause him to come near to him. The one whom he chooses, he will cause to come near to him. Do this. Take censers, Korah, and all your company. Put fire in them, and put incense in them before the Lord tomorrow. The next day Korah took his censer and that of his company, and stood with them at the entrance of the tent of meeting. As the congregation gathered against them, the glory of the Lord appeared to all. Then the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, Separate yourselves from among this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment. But Moses and Aaron fell on their faces and cried out, O God, the God of the spirits of all flesh, shall one man sin, and you be angry with all the congregation? And the Lord replied, Say to the congregation, Get away from the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. So Moses rose and went to Dathan and Abiram, and the elders of Israel followed him. He spoke to the people, Turn away from the tents of these wicked men, and touch nothing of theirs, lest you be consumed in all their sins. And it came to pass, as the people moved away, that Moses declared, By this you shall know that the Lord has sent me to do all these works, for I have not done them of my own will. If these men die naturally like all men, then the Lord has not sent me. But if the Lord creates a new thing, and the earth opens its mouth and swallows them up with all that belongs to them, and they go down alive into the pit, then you will understand that these men have rejected the Lord. As soon as he had finished speaking all these words, the ground beneath them split apart, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them and their households, along with all the men associated with Korah and their possessions. They descended alive into the grave, and the earth closed over them, and they perished. Then a fire came out from the Lord and consumed the 250 men who were offering incense. The fear of the Lord fell upon the people as they witnessed the justice of God being revealed among them. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Tell Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, to take up the censers out of the midst of the burning, for they are holy, and scatter the fire some distance away. The censers of these men who sinned against their own souls will be made into hammered plates as a covering for the altar, to be a warning to the children of Israel. Thus Eleazar took the bronze censers, and they were made into a covering for the altar, as a sign that none but the descendants of Aaron should approach to offer incense before the Lord, lest they die. The people of Israel, however, still murmured against Moses and Aaron the next day, saying, You have killed the people of the Lord. And when the congregation assembled again at the door of the tabernacle, the cloud covered it, and the glory of the Lord appeared. In that moment the Lord spoke once more to Moses, saying, I will bring forth a new beginning from among them, for I cannot hold my wrath indefinitely. Each heart must choose the way it shall go. A greater high priest is coming. He shall intercede and stand as the true mediator between God and man, for I have not forgotten my covenant with the house of Israel. And it came to pass, after the great judgment upon Korah and his followers, that the people of Israel stood in hushed silence, their hearts burdened with the weight of the Lord's clear demonstration of justice. They realized that the divine authority bestowed upon Moses and Aaron bore the utmost significance and demanded reverence. The landscape of their understanding shifted as they beheld firsthand the awe-inspiring nature of God's holiness, how swiftly his hand executed judgment upon rebellion and insubordination. As days unfurled into weeks, Moses continued leading the people with a steadfast heart, ever mindful of their fickleness, yet praying earnestly for their forgiveness and for understanding. The Lord, ever compassionate, spoke gently to Moses, assuring him, "Rejoice, for I shall remain with my people. They are still my chosen, and there is yet a new promise to unfold. Though they must be taught the weight of my holiness, my mercy shall reveal paths to healing." In their wandering, the Israelites encountered trials that served to refine their faith. The bitter waters of Marah were made sweet by the power of God, and the daily bread, manna, fell from the heavens, a testament to his enduring provision. Nightly, the pillar of fire illuminated their path, a consistent reminder of his presence amidst uncertainty. Yet, even as the blessed signs surrounded them, an undercurrent of doubt threatened to rise again. During one gathering, a small remnant rose to voice their discontent. "Can we trust this leadership?" they questioned. "Will we ever see the land flowing with milk and honey?" Moses stood before them, heart aflame with righteous indignation tempered by love. "Fear not," he implored. "The Lord has shown you his might and care, and he has chosen us to guide you. Behold the miracles which testify to his unfailing love. Each trial you face is a stepping stone towards his promises. Learn to trust in God, for only in faith shall you find rest." And lo, as he spoke with passionate urgency, the hearts of many began to shift as the Holy Spirit stirred among them. They turned once again to the Lord, seeking forgiveness. They cried out, "Lord, teach us your ways. Lead us in truth, that we might walk in your paths." In that moment of turning, God spoke anew through Moses. "A new covenant I shall initiate, for you shall not perish in your disobedience. Your redemption shall stem from a lineage yet to be revealed, a high priest who will intercede for you eternally, understanding your struggles and pains." As Moses continued to lead them through trials, victories, and valleys, the grand vision unfolded further. The people learned that the promise of the Promised Land was not merely a geographical location, but a profound promise resting firmly in their hearts. A community knit together in faith and trust, bound in righteousness before the Lord. Then came the day when the Lord commanded Moses to gather the elders of Israel and share this truth. "My title is not only of law, but of love. You are destined for a covenant of grace through the one who will come." The air was electric with anticipation as they listened intently. Among their number stood Joshua, the son of Nun, whose heart beat fervently with loyalty to God's commands. Inspired by Moses' faithful guidance and the promise of God's greater plan, Joshua began to arise as a leader in his own right, a man of valor who echoed the heart of the covenant. Concerning this unfolding narrative, the Lord said, "Fear not, for I am the God who fulfills every promise. Even in the wilderness, my purpose is being established, and though rebellion will linger, I shall remain a beacon of hope." As the people journeyed on, entrenched in these held truths, their faith began to solidify like iron. They recognized that beyond the seasons of despair and questioning lay a divine order. Each step towards their destination was accompanied by the assuring whispers of God's presence and the promise of a redemptive future. The days morphed into seasons, following their transformative path of disobedience towards a burgeoning awareness of grace. As they finally approached the Promised Land, Moses, finding solace in the assurance of the Almighty, lifted his eyes to heaven. "Lord, your faithfulness has brought us thus far. May our hearts remain steadfast, trusting in your sovereign plan." But he knew, in seeing this land, that his journey would reach its conclusion from the mountaintop, witnessing the boundaries of the promise without crossing over. Yet even here, the whisper of fulfilled promise rang true. The real possession awaited them, echoing in future generations bound to receive it. In the eternal tapestry of God's providence, their rebellion morphed into testimony. Each heart renewed and grounded, poised for the dawn of a divine plan. Not just a covenant of law, but the promise of grace in Christ Jesus, the greater high priest who would forever intercede on behalf of mankind. And thus the story melded upon itself, a sacred narrative of rebellion turned redemption as the people of Israel continued. Journeyed ever closer, guided by their Lord, toward a destiny in which true freedom and faith would reign eternal. Behold, the fullness of His grace awaited in the perpetuity of His promise, the echoed rhythm of faith fortified unto the next generations. Now that the accounts of God's faithfulness have culminated in this powerful narrative, I invite you to subscribe immediately to our channel so you do not miss the next series of life-transforming biblical stories. Your support is crucial. Leave a like now and help spread God's word through the algorithm. Please share your spiritual reflections in the comments. How has this story impacted your faith? Let us walk together in this journey. And do not wait even one more second. Share this video immediately with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. You need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's promises. Rejoice in His goodness, and let us continue on this path of divine revelation together.